Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Yo, what the fuck is up, Warped Tour? The state of the scene at SOTS Podcast on all social media, the alternative music show. Sam here with Marcos.
I've got a secret. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's on the back of my lungs, and I'm going to keep it. I know something you don't know.
I feel like I could pressure a secret out of you. I feel like it wouldn't be that hard. You know? Like, I feel like I could tickle it out of you.
No, you'd have to go to extremes.
Like what? Like pull a fingernail out or something?
Yeah.
What is the...
Which fingernail would I part with?
Yeah. If you had to choose one of your 10 fingernails to let go, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, ring?
I feel like the only one I got to hold on to is like thumb.
Yeah, gaming fingers? Can't touch them. Can't touch. You can take my pinky fingernail all day, bro.
Like scrolling fingers. Come on now.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. But I can get real clever with a scroll. You ever scroll with your nose?
Once or twice. I've been known to dabble with the nose scrolling.
If you would like,
blue moon.
Shut the fuck up. If you would like to choose Marcus's opening lyric for the show, you can go to patreon.com/SOTS podcast and sign up for the Kink for a Day tier. We got a lot of other tiers over there as well, such as our crew tier, where if you'd like to be included in the video producer credits for the video podcast every single week, you can sign up there. Alternatively, you could join our guest list and watch us react to Brian Starr's interviews. You could join our VIP Plus tier and get a sticker of our brand new logo, where me and Marcos are looking very cute with our intestines out in front of this red logo right behind us. Or you can just get like the general admission tier and get early access to a bunch of cool shit like our Dayseeker interview, which is live right now.
Where?
Patreon.com/SOTS podcast. Every link you need in the description of this episode, including links to our Discord, merch, socials, and playlist. The state of the scene, every song you hear on this episode is on that playlist. I thought we would start like the whole year off with something fun. Are you game?
Bro, let's talk about like, hey, it's a new season. It's a brand new year. It's 2023.
Hey,
I feel like
things?
we're not excited enough.
What do you mean? I'm excited. This is the most excited I've been in my whole fucking life.
I'm excited to be here recording. I'm thrilled.
I think we should compile between the two of us 5 like guesses of what's gonna. It's not a guess. What's it called when you be like.
We're trying to.
We like a thing that's going to happen this year. Help me out. Like a premonition? Is it a premonition?
Final destination? No. A vision?
No, it's not a vision.
It's not a vision. Oh man, I'm stumped.
Bro, it's crazy. I can't think of the fucking thing that you'd call this.
5.
Yeah. There it is. So we're gonna come up with 5 yeahs that are totally gonna happen this year. We'll go back and forth. I'll start. I'll make it easy on you. All right, here's a big one. And I think it's fun because you started with a Bring Me the Horizon lyric. I think we're not getting Post-Human 2 this year. I think the Post-Human thing was like a cute idea, and they're striking it from the record, and they're going straight to this is what the edge of your seat was made for too.
Listen, I'm ready for that weird EP Jordan Fish did. Part 2 of that.
Jordan Fish had a weird EP?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the songs to sleep to, navigate to?
Right.
The fish to? Yeah, all those?
Well, I think those are like the only 2 activities that weren't named, so I'm waiting on that.
I don't think I need a second one of those, I'm being honest with you.
My Chemical Romance is going to drop their next album on the first week of September.
Yeah, 2. That's the second yeah.
That's the yeah 2, baby.
That's yeah 2. You with the 2nd of? Did you say the 2nd of November?
Premonition.
Is it even a Friday? Is it even
vision.
A Friday?
No, like the first Friday of September. Book it. Watch.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the My Chemical Romance camp now that Paramore and Fall Out Boy are real hot with the singles and the album announcements.
Yeah, they're good.
Suddenly My Chemical Romance sweat. Like people are going to forget all about us and our little song from last year.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like they got to drop an album now. Like let's make it happen.
Mm-hmm. They're going to do.
We have to get
a second summoning.
The Emo Trinity has to go down this year.
It has to go down. It has to go down. Like the actual Hella Mega Fest. Like Weezer, dust them.
I think I remember doing the research, and I think the results were that these bands have never dropped one album each in the same calendar year.
This is the only chance we'll ever have for this because the stars will never allot it away for this to happen.
What's your third? Yeah.
Third yeah.
Third. Yeah.
Third yeah. Beartooth are going to release a top 10 album of the year.
Let's go.
This is based solely off of Riptide being one of my favorite songs from last year. That's it.
I'm saying title track even. Let's just call the whole album Riptide.
Oh, you're saying like whole Riptide Renaissance.
Yeah.
Riptide era, Riptide merch.
Fourth, yeah. Like Moths to Flames album of the year.
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Do we set ourselves up in a way that in order for our yes to come true, we have to stick to them?
Yeah.
Almost to prove a point. It's like, damn, like Monster Flames, Beartooth, 1-2. 1-2 this year, 1-2.
How'd they know?
Crazy how we killed this. All right,
what's the
final fifth thing?
And final, yeah.
Fifth and final, yeah? This should be like the biggest one of all of them.
Yeah.
Warped Tour's back. Fuck it. Warped Tour's back.
Listen.
Not like totally back though. It'll be like a one-day thing. It'll be like Warped Tour's back. We're doing it again in Atlantic City. It's a one-day thing.
Fucking New Jersey, bro.
New Jersey, yeah. That it'll be exactly what it is. But maybe they'll be like, wait though, because we got like one of the big boys to head, like one of these Emo Trinity we got them to headline, right? So it's extra special. They call it Warped Tour 2. Once again, every link you need in the description of this episode. Social media, Discord, merch, Patreon, playlist. Marcus, we got some bands in the spotlight this week.
The Spotlight.
In Fear and their song The Blinding White. Metal from Bristol, UK. They recently signed to Year of the Rat Records. You can follow them at In Fear Official on Instagram.
Not Year of the Rat this year, though.
No, it is not. Also, in the spotlight this week, Nick Karsher and their song Mr. Obsessive.
You're so pathetic, Mr. Unsympathetic, Mr. I don't care at all, Mr. It's all my fault, Mr. Obsessive, Mr. A little bit desperate, Mr. cares way too much.
Nick is an up-and-coming artist from the Chicago pop punk scene. You can follow them at It's Nick Karsher on Instagram.
Love me some tunes out of the Windy City.
Also, and finally, in the spotlight this week, Decayer and their song Your Shadow.
The hierarchy of
Deathcore from Arizona. This 5-piece is currently signed to Seek and Strike Records. You can follow them at Decayer AZ on Instagram.
Arizona, that's how you know it's hot.
Mm-hmm. From the is the Valley of Death in Arizona? Deathcore from the Valley of Death. That's a freebie. That's for Decayer.
Yes.
That they can change all of their profile bios to that right now. Marcos, we missed a lot.
We did.
In our downtime, but we're back. We're ready to talk about some of the albums that dropped. We're ready to talk about 10 of the biggest news stories over the course of the last month. You excited?
Always.
Then let's get into it.
Always.
The Breakdown.
We're going to kick off with Atlas Ruinica by the Wise Man's Fear. This is the Central Indiana Outfit's 4th studio album, self-released on January 13th. Atlas Ruinica consists of 10 tracks, clocks in at around 42 minutes, and is the much-anticipated follow-up to 2020's Valley of Kings LP. self-proclaimed Fantasycore Titans, the only Fantasycore band that exists at the moment. They came out of Indiana. Who would have guessed?
Decayer from the Valley of Death.
Kind of fire.
The Wise Man's Fear from the Valley of Kings.
More fire.
To meet finally on the battlefield. No, that's not actually what the narrative of this album is. And there is a narrative to this album, and it is rich text.
I'll let you get into the lore in a moment.
Mhm.
I do want to say one thing, and that's this album was the first one for this calendar year that I had circled. Like,
Okay.
don't care about, I initially didn't care about what dropped the first week or second week, but when The Wise Man's Fear dropped, that's when I was like, I had to put my SOTS game face back on, and I was excited to be consuming Fantasycore again.
You're saying the year started with the release of The Wise Man's Fear.
Yes, sir.
I feel like that's pressure. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of pressure.
A little bit, but so what's actually really cool about the Wise Man's Fear's new
We gotta.
album,
What can we cut that down to? What's the acronym for that? TWF?
Fear's new album.
TWMF?
Fear's
We'll
new
call him
album.
Fear. We'll
Fear's
call
new
him Fear.
album.
We'll call him Fear.
The cool thing about the rollout for this album is that it dropped starting. This has been a journey, Sam. So the rollout for this album started last January. The intro song on this album, and then for 1 month they dropped one song. So all the way up until like October,
And they dropped,
we've
like-
been getting drip fed material off of this album.
Right, alongside like a little textbook of everything that like the song stands for and how
Yeah.
it drives like the story forward and stuff like that. So every track has really been given like it's roses, like really let
It's time in the
like,
sun.
yeah, exactly. Which is neat because it plays very much against what a lot of other bands are doing currently. And we'll talk about one of them in the news, one band in particular who's dropped like 4 singles in the last like 2 weeks.
It is neat that that's your perspective on this, though, because, for example, like we watched Memphis Mayfire last year, and I guess technically the year before when they started dropping singles for that album,
Mhm.
Remade in Misery. I'm just trying my best not to get it confused with the Silverstein title.
Right. Misery Made Me, is that what it
right.
was? Yeah.
Remade in Misery, like that was
Misery Made Me?
Remade
sorry,
in
go ahead.
Misery.
Yeah, right.
It had like 10 singles and then like one final song on its release date. And I remember the attitude around that being like, wow, Memphis Mayfire couldn't save any material for the actual album.
Ironically, that's a fun pitch too, where you can be like, get the album to hear the song that we didn't release. You know what I mean? Like, check it out.
So good, you just have to listen to the album. But like your perspective on this being that like it's cool that each of these got the single treatment and were allowed their time to kind of like this album. I don't know. You had to.
I think it speaks
you
more
experienced
directly-
it in chapters almost.
It speaks more directly to what this album is trying to accomplish, where it's telling a story sort of like in a chapter-based way, where it's saying like, hey, here's what happens first, and then come back in a month and we'll tell you what happens next, and so on and so forth. And a song accompanies it each time. With Memphis Mayfire, it's a little bit of a different story. It's like, hey, here's a Memphis Mayfire song. It sounds very similar to one from
Hey,
about 6 years ago.
you like the
and
video
it's going to
from
sound a
last
lot
time?
like the next one, right? And completely irrelevant if they're good or bad. You've got a general idea of what the rest of this album is going to sound like after the first 2 songs. Here's the other 10. Very different approach, right? I like the rollout to this, though I will say, like, if we're just like measuring sort of my personal anticipation, I almost like forgot this was coming out because for me, once you tell me something is going to happen a year from now, like you've completely lost me. You know what I mean? Like,
well, like in
and you
in
can
that
remind
same
me once a
breath-
month, but it's like you literally like you have my attention span for such a finite amount of time.
And full transparency, knowing that this would all eventually be attached to one completed album, I stopped paying attention to the singles a while back.
You're an album guy.
Way past or way before October came and that last single came out. Like I'm an album guy. We know that.
So I like it in theory, but I don't know that I love it in practice because it doesn't really pull me in.
Well, what I was gonna say is, you also experience that album when you're first listening to it. And you're like, oh well, this is really familiar because I've heard most of this.
Yes, there is that
in a
too.
different way than it is like the regular single rollout is what I mean. But
Though in a sense, again, this sort of plays against like other album rollouts in a sense that like you're getting pieces of a story that once you get the album, you have the complete thing from start to finish, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like Fear can kind of get away with a lot of things that maybe other bands couldn't.
You really threw me off
With the name,
nickname.
I'm
Yeah.
committed to it. I'm committed. It just makes things so much easier. Also interesting that this is a self-release. It's fun to start off the year with a band who has no label and are almost the prime example of the alternative scene where you got to do a little legwork on your own to go discover the band, and then you're rewarded once you find them.
Not to toot our own horn, but I think it says a lot that one of the albums we were most looking forward to at the start of the year was a self-released. Like we've been following. I think this is their 4th LP, like I stated at the top, and like we've kind of been there for the whole ride. And this band has gotten a lot better with age. I remember that Valley of Kings or whatever. That was a good album, Sam.
By the way, that was the end of a trilogy, and for those who don't know,
Which is why we've started a new
right,
story.
right. The Wise Man's Fear, like narrative-driven band, coined as Fantasycore.
So what I was gonna say is like that last album was good. It had like one incredible moment with that flute breakdown.
The Tree of Life, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's their most played song on Spotify, by the way. Deservedly so.
Doesn't surprise me.
Deservedly so.
Anyway, the fact that like I was gonna say this is a great album.
Mhm.
Like this band's still getting better and better and better, and this has easily got some of their best material on it. I am interested though because I didn't pay a lot of attention to.
So
the
that's
lore.
big picture for you. You're saying like
Right.
overall really enjoyed this album, met expectations that were quite lofty because
Bro.
it's kicking off your year of scene. All right, so here's I got a handful of notes on this, right? Right at the top, big picture for me as well. I think the band captured like a really otherworldly sensation that, like, combined with its conceptual nature, it makes this album feel significantly richer than a lot of albums that are of a similar style.
It's just listening to a couple of songs off of this one, you can tell how much attention to detail, how much passion and care was poured into like every waking moment.
It's very well considered, yes.
Yeah. Very well fleshed out, sonically, lyrically, all that.
There's a lot of little touches, like right at the top in that opening track, Tailspin. That song's about, so if you don't know, that song's about a
I don't.
dogfight between fighter
Don't know any of
planes.
it, yeah.
And towards like the very end of that song, you hear like the sound of like a plane going down, like some Mayday ass shit, and like little stuff like that sprinkled in really sort of helps elevate what I'm hearing. And then like there becomes like these different layers that all like help bring out the best in one another. So it's like once I know the story behind the song, then the song is sort of more meaningful. And then once they add in those little touches, then it's like I feel the story coming to life in a different way than just sort of having it articulated to me over some breakdowns or something.
Right. So I won't, I mean, unless that was your plan getting into like each song specifically, I was
No. I don't intend to go song by song, but I will give you
I
like
was
what the story is
curious.
about.
Do you have exactly what the Strength to Bury a Friend was about?
Ooh, I believe I do.
So real quick, like that is the token ballad on this one, and it fucking hits. Like its intention is to land with like, you know, a heavy hand, and it does. It's a very somber song.
I don't actually.
Wow.
In the back of my mind, I almost remember it being something about being at a funeral and finding out like some extremely relevant information that helps push the plot line forward. But let's run it back. So it's a thick narrative. And like it's worth diving into. Like I literally like storybook read this alongside me listening to the album.
All the paragraphs scared me.
I took the true experience route, you know? Story path.
Is it like so crazy that you're meant to finish reading by the time the song
No.
is over? Okay, I wasn't
no.
sure.
I think it would almost help if you read exactly what the song was about right before it played and then had that context going into it, right?
Got it.
So it's almost like read song, read song, read song. And I understand that not everybody is interested in approaching an album that way. And I will say that if you choose to just not engage with any of that, that this is a pretty fun like metalcore record just on like the surface.
I will one day, and I do remember reading like some of this as the songs were dropping, but then I just completely lost the lost sight of the storyline and everything.
It's fine. It's
The
fine.
plot.
It's nowhere. Okay. All right. Okay. So the band teamed up with Boolin Tunes to kind of like do a walkthrough on like what the story of this album was, like what the lore is. And it's essentially there's this main character, Elise, right? And their uncle actually died in the very first song, right? But was killed by otherworldly forces to help hide a secret that might otherwise bring them down, right? And now Elise is kind of like chasing down, all right, I got to find out like what that secret was. And she goes on this like fantasy-ass Da Vinci Code-esque travel to find all the secrets, right? Precisely though. Like oh, there's a journal, right? And there's like, oh, there's like a hidden, like you got to pull this book, and then like it opens a hidden doorway, and now we got to go to France because there's some shit going on in France. We got to meet a guy, right? And this guy will help me like understand and move forward.
National Treasure.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is. But then it's like National Treasure ass, but
Tomb
also
Raider, all that.
There was a line in here. There was a fucking crazy ass line in here.
Which or like in reference to the story.
So Sun Chaser, the track Sun Chaser provides like a really good opportunity to like illuminate a piece of the story and give you a taste of what's at play. So Sun Chaser represents, and this was straight from the lore description in Boolin Tunes, Elise making a conscious decision to take up the torch of her uncle's discovery. Despite the danger it will place her in, it's a resolution of courage and a statement of defiance to the mysterious Ptolemaic kings who murdered her uncle.
What the fuck? The kings did it?
Yeah, ooh, that's a tough word, but
That's
like
a
Ptolemaic
big word.
kings who murdered her uncle. So there's stakes,
Fuck.
big stakes, right? But like I said, on like the surface level, like I feel like this album just like balances itself really well. Like I feel like it really picks and chooses. It's like more aggressive moments so that when they come in really hard and they feel like really satisfying, like payoffs to a story. So overall, I was just really impressed with this and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think the Strength to Bury a Friend might have been my favorite track on there, honestly.
Is it The Enemy with Lauren Babick?
Is it
That might be my favorite.
I actually completely went over my head in
There's a
trying
couple
to
of
keep
neat
up with this.
features on
Didn't even
here.
realize there was a feature on here.
Couple. Whalebone's another one that was really solid too. Forget the exact song that was on, but some good features, good choices.
What else did we listen to?
Well, you didn't quite listen to this
Hey,
one.
yo, what else did you listen to?
I listened to one thing that I really just did want to discuss to start off the year, which was Downer Part 2 by a band called 1056. Stylized the word 10,
Yeah,
the numbers 5, 6, and
I don't
then
know how else you do it.
and then a period at the end of it. So don't know the significance. It's a funny one. It's a cool one. But this is the Paris, France outfit's second EP released January 13th via Out of Line Music. Downer Part 2 consists of 7 tracks, clocks in at around 19 minutes, and is the follow-up to 2021's Downer Part 1.
Yeah,
You guessed
checks
it.
out.
Yep.
Stylized the number 1.
Just because I don't think we've really ever discussed this band on the show before, I just want to read their bio real quick, or at least a quick excerpt from their bio on Spotify, which is that 1056 is a project built upon the stress and uncertainty of a global pandemic, so COVID, that's right, made up of real people who are sick of the pretentious elite and the hypocrisy of the industry.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
There's
It's heavy.
A little bit of like piss and vinegar in this band sound for sure. I'll start off with this. Just when you briefly have the band figured out and start penning down like a recommended if you like, which includes Diamond Construct, Darko, US, Conform, Alpha Wolf, all of those types of band, those types of energies, very, very bouncy, very angry.
For fans of.
You get a couple of songs, though, thrown at you, and then that list suddenly gets longer and it gets a lot weirder. Because suddenly in the mix are bands like Nothing Nowhere, Pale Skin, Void of Vision, and even something like Suicide Boys.
Well, now I regret not checking this out.
So this one actually came... I had been listening to the Darko EP, another one dropped, Death Mask Part 2, I guess. And maybe because this had Part 2 in its title, one of the songs came on the album-based radio, and I got into it.
Okay.
And then I started listening to the whole thing, and I kind of slowly became obsessed with this project, and I kind of realized how much I like it.
I love the idea that Spotify was like, yo, this guy loves Part 2 EPs. Feed him one of these.
Right. And transparency, again, we know that this is really my first instance with this band, meaning I haven't heard Part 1, but this is the type of project that inspires you to go and check out this band's old material as well, especially because it's connected in a way. It's a Part 1 to this whole project, and now I want to know what that sounds like. How different is it? You know, a year in between that release and this one, so what's or nearly 2 years, I guess. What's different? How cohesive does that sound? What else does this band have up their sleeve? But again, talking about what they currently have up their sleeve that I'm aware of on this EP, a lot of interesting shit. Probably of the bands we've discussed this week, and we haven't mentioned the other two yet, I think this might be my favorite one lyrically. So,
Bro, you said that after we come off the narratively rich text.
Bro,
That was the last
I'm gonna hit you
album?
with something real quick. I'm gonna hit you with something real quick. Closing song, Ender. Nothing can bring me a smile. Not no kids. Not no wife. Crooked grin, happy life.
It's dark.
Do you feel okay? Who the fuck cares? None of your business.
It's darker than Darko.
A little pale skin though, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And all of this, like that song preceded by this insane, like fucking cyber doom metal track that sounds like something straight off of a Darko album. A song like RLS, which for me is the biggest standout on here, has extreme Nothing Nowhere vibes. And again, that's where all those RIYL things come from. Where it's like some sad boy shit in a way, but like then it's bouncy like Diamond Construct, bouncy like a Hit It Back type of song. And it's just got so many different layers, and there's a ton of variety in the sounds. And even when this band does something a little different, like they have an interlude on here and it's all of a minute long, but it adds to the entire experience because it's called Intruder, and it's like kind of setting up a scene, and you can kind of hear like police sirens in the background.
A lot into this EP,
right? And something for me, like something like that for me is like, this is a band that is clearly innovative. They're clearly trying maybe some different things, and suddenly not on the radar whatsoever, skyrocketing to the top of like your on repeat playlist on Spotify. Like I started listening to this yesterday, like 24 hours ago, and I've heard each song probably 5-6 times over.
It's like the polar opposite of the Wise Man's Fear. It's like your most anticipated starting the top of the year off, and then alternatively we have this album you didn't even know was coming out, and then like you just sort of like discover it because randomly Spotify suggests it to you.
Right, and like I said, like I mean, came out day and date with that Wise Man Fears album, but didn't know anything about it, and now suddenly really, really enjoying it. And I don't, I guess, really have much else to say on it. Another standout song, Trauma Doll, but like 19 minutes, really easy listen. Band is really sick, and I really, really recommend this one.
Okay, yeah,
So-
no, I'll definitely circle back around to it.
But back to stuff that we've heard together.
Shared listens.
Get those bingo cards ready, SOTS fans. Because for the first time ever, SOTS are going to be reviewing an Anti-Flag album.
You go anti, huh? I go anti-flag.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got a nicer ring to it.
Lies they tell our children how to pronounce anti-flag.
Flashback to 1983. Emphasize the uncertainty. The memo says the
This is the Pittsburgh Outfits. Guess.
Ooh, anti-flag. Now you got me fucked up. Anti-flag's been.
I'll go
Anti-flag?
anti-flag. I'll go anti-flag.
No, I think I like anti-flag now better. You've like almost convinced me of the opposite. I'm gonna go 13th.
It is.
Holy shit!
Did you actually know?
shit! No, that's got to be through osmosis. I must have read that earlier.
13th studio album released January 6th via Spine Farm Records, which took me by surprise. Lies They Tell Our Children consists of 11 tracks, clocks in at around 33 minutes, and is the follow-up to 2020's 2020 Vision LP. That was their 12th.
Have you ever listened to an anti-flag album?
Bro, haven't heard an album, haven't heard an EP, haven't heard a song, haven't
You
heard
don't
a demo.
even. So this is like the freshest.
What's the anti-flag
You're
song?
getting into. It's a good question.
This is Anti-Flag's chance to prove to me that they're a good
What is
band.
the anti-flag song?
What's the Anti-Flag song?
What is the
Come on,
anti-flag
say it.
song? The sound of a billionaire being eaten. What is
Come on now,
the sound
what
of a
is it?
union protest? What is the sound of fighting to save the Earth's atmosphere? What is an anti-flag song? Get out of here, an anti-flag song. This is like the freshest experience imaginable for you. You're getting in on this band on album 13.
What were you, like, you hear the last one or what?
No, I haven't listened to Anti-Flag since probably about somewhere around 2003, 2004.
Band's been
Couldn't
around
tell you a
since-
song, but
since 88.
I think nah, cut it out.
8.
Cut it out. 88?
Yep.
That's like a long ass.
Well,
time to
I
be
guess
doing
it took like a 1 year
anything, to be
break, but they
honest
were
with
back
you.
by
They-
92.
They took a break in 89. It's like, this is a lot. It's too much work being a punk band.
It's actually funny.
I'm no longer even interested in my thoughts on this album. I just need to know what you
don't
think
give a
about an
fuck.
Anti-Flag album.
I was on their wiki, and their lead singer, it took me by surprise considering the band had been around since 88, not even 50 yet.
So he started this band when he was 6?
Yeah, well, you posted on like the SOTS account that like
At SOTS podcast.
fucking the guy from the guy from
Bullet for My
Bullet for
Valentine.
Valentine, which started when, like 2000 at the earliest,
75
was already
actually.
like 45 or something.
He's
Not that that's
43.
old, but,
He's
like,
43.
same difference.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's weird that like the Anti-Flag must have started when all
Like
these
the
kids
numbers
were,
don't
like,
check
17.
out. You're right. Like the numbers
Yeah,
don't add up here. And Bullet for My Valentine started when Matt was 24. Somehow.
I guess.
Like I said,
Actually-
I have zero interest in what I think of this album. I need to know how you feel about an Anti-Flag album.
I don't expect to spend much time with it this year, but not that bad.
Oh,
Which took me by surprise.
what about it wasn't not bad to you?
So they ease you into things. You know, I'm a little standoffish because I'd never listened to an Anti-Flag album. Got some familiar faces, some familiar voices to kick things off. Some guest vocals, Jesse Leach, Shane Told of Silverstein. You know, they're fine features, but like just the fact that they're there is reassuring for me. Like that's reassurance. And for a while I'm listening, I'm like, you know, I would kind of like if this project was all guest vocals on songs, and it didn't end up being the case. But what's
That's an interesting perspective.
well, without any context of what this album was supposed to be, and eventually, like, it starts off with a song that's not even a guest vocal, so that falls apart pretty quickly. But by the time the song like The Hazardous comes on and it's just Anti-Flag, I'm like, okay, well, what are you guys actually made out of? You know, because I've never really listened to this band at all. And
For me, the features feel a lot like Algorithm play on this, where I don't think that any one of them in particular,
No.
outside of maybe there was one standout.
I've
to me.
already got my mind on end of year shit for 2023, believe it or not, and
You
we're
need to
just
settle
kicking
down.
off.
You need to really settle down right now.
Trust
Trey
me.
Bird
Trust
stood
me.
out to me,
Shut the
but
fuck
like
up. Shut the fuck up.
The names I thought would stand out didn't really pop for me.
None of these are feature of the year candidates
Sure.
right off the bat, but like it was nice to have them.
It's nice to see a Shane Tolden and Jesse Leach pop up, but I don't feel that they brought characteristically what makes their bands interesting to make Anti-Flag interesting. I think more so where Anti-Flag really kind of best found their footing with a feature outside of Trey Burr, which was an artist I wasn't familiar with, was someone like Tim McElrath from Rise Against, who really just feels like already in Anti-Flag, even when you add them into the band, right? Like it's just sort of like leveraging someone with a very similar style.
I don't know what I really expected going into this, but I really didn't expect to really be able to like digest any of this album. Like I expected it to kind of be like off-putting in a way, but it was pretty like digestible, if that makes sense.
So, all right. So
like
like
I expected it to be
lyrically,
like really, really hard-nosed punk, and it kind of wasn't. It was just some pop rock type of thing.
it's radio punk.
Yeah.
So lyrically, like zero subtext. Like we're just getting right in your face and being like, war is bad. Homelessness is bad.
They've got, like, some
Corporations are
chanty
bad.
stuff
The pharmaceutical
going on,
companies are
yeah.
bad. Everyone's bad, but like there's maybe hope in the youth. I think a big part of the disconnect for me with being unable to enjoy this is that tonally, I don't feel like their style of music and the lyrics that are behind them are help like correlate. Well, I feel like there should be a punch when we have such hefty subject matter, but everything's kind of delivered with like a soft melody.
This is like the messaging,
And our
feels
riffs are
a little diluted
sort of bouncy and fun.
by the instruments. Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to really like figure out a way to like feed you important messages in a really like easy to swallow type beat, but realistically I would actually like my punk rock to have a little more bite to it.
I recognize that Anti-Flag stand for a lot of good things, but not listening to this album didn't move me particularly.
Mm-hmm.
If we're trying to make all of these grand points or whatever, like none of it like inspires to me to get off my ass and take on the world.
I think the right music behind it would have, though, is almost what I'm saying.
I bet.
It's like I feel like there's no grit to any of the like instrumentation or like the vocal delivery, and that's by design. Like for what it's worth, I think Anti-Flag
I didn't mind the vocal
cultivated
delivery.
and is maintaining an audience, right? And we're not really trying to innovate or branch out in any way
Listen,
here.
13 in, we just had to go and check a couple of boxes. I think we were due for an album. I don't know if I would have liked the last one more.
Right, like it's
or
hard to
what
discredit this
separates
band
it.
for what I think they're doing, which is essentially just playing to their audience who like
Not us.
they've had like a 30-year career from.
right.
So like all credit to them. But you're right. Jumping into this album and being like, you know, for me, it's like, oh, first Anti-Flag album I've listened to in probably 20 years minimum. Not a lot. Like you could have told me these were 13 remastered or 10 remastered songs, and I would have been like, yeah, that checks out. And we brought in these features to spice them up a little bit. Like I'm sure Anti-Flag sounds like this in 2005 and 1995 and 2015.
It's fine. Like it's all okay.
Yeah, this was a big find to me too.
Right. And I'm
It's almost like it could have been worse.
Well, and that's what I was bracing myself for, truthfully, just because I don't know. There's like a certain cutoff for me, and like any band that started before a certain time within this scene, like I don't really care about. And I expected this
Like if
band
he came
to
out
be...
before the Black Parade, it's
Right.
like I'm all set.
Well, Fall Out Boy a couple, but yeah, like I say it's not bad, but within the context of like I expected to really dislike it. Sonically, at least. Like again, like I understand the message.
This is almost best case scenario, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if I expect to check out LP 14. I
Very
don't know.
fair.
I don't know if that's on the docket. We did check out one last album this week though, which was Everywhere, Everything by Polar. This is the Guildford, UK outfit's 5th studio album, released January 13th via Arising Empire Records. Everywhere, Everything consists of 10 tracks, clocks in at around 38 minutes, and is the follow-up to 2019's Nova LP.
This is what this is going to sound weird, but this is what I want from like an Anti-Flag. I
This
want
is more in our wheelhouse, by the way.
Yeah, but this it resonates for a very specific reason, in that it uses like its emotional weight as like the fuel to light like what is like this really fiery raw passion that you have delivered through the music. So it's like that for me is where the disconnect was in one, but what works so well alternatively in this is when you nail that, when you really sell me on like how emotionally devastating it is through the lyrics, and then you drive that forward with the music. Like that's what I'm looking for, and Polar does an absolutely phenomenal job of it.
Totally. This is chock full of really anthemic sing-along choruses, riffs, whole nine. We're talking recommended if you like. Sam, you texted me right off the bat and said that this is for fans of While She Sleeps.
Yeah, that's what I really pulled almost immediately from
earlier. While She Sleeps.
Yeah, very like this is the 6 era While She Sleeps.
This has a rawness to it, like emotionally, sonically, that really helped push it over the edge in terms of like connecting with the listener. And I also pull like some old Architects, like Daybreaker type days from this project as well.
It's not a bad example. I mean, Polar's
a lot of Acres newer material as well.
A lot of United Kingdom in these bands. A lot of United Kingdom in these bands.
But yeah, this is first of all, by the way, it took me forever to get the album title right, because immediately I saw it, I'm just like, oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once, just like the movie. Yeah,
I
see what this band is
right?
doing. And then like I look at it and I'm like, well, it doesn't look. Oh, everywhere, everything. What the fuck? It's just like mind-boggling.
It's almost like now that one word like self-completes for you.
Yep.
So I like that this album establishes this tone right at the jump. The opening, I believe it's final line of the opening track. I've given everything. Will it ever end? And those are the final words of that introduction. I've given everything. Will it ever end?
I love how that.
Like, where do you go from there? Right? You know what I mean?
I love how that track / the album opens very like softly before like eventually like there's some pretty fucking heavy material on here. Like,
we've established that everything is futile, and now we have to move forward. And then it bookends it really well too, because there's like that hopeful track like at the end where we kind of like dig our way out of all this like darkness stuff. So it's just like this album was almost like too well made for like my tastes. Like this lined up almost too perfectly with what I like. Like we've got like a really loose structure, but like a really heavy emotional weight. And it's the kind of like really like raw fury that I like out of my metalcore.
You were really pushing for us to review it before we even.
I needed to tell the people about this one,
right? But before I had even heard it, like you were really pushing it on to the episode onto my plate, and like by like track 2, I'm like, yeah, I see why you are all over this. It's your bread and butter. This is your favorite type of music.
Yeah, this clicked. So just some of the things I really liked about it. I think that it's very punchy. And that the touch of melody like really contrasts like the harder edges very well.
I like the sorts of melody too. Like there's a gravelly type of clean yelling that is supposed to be your clean singing on here for the most part, that or at least it's the majority of the clean singing moments on here, and it really stands
every
out.
chorus feels like you're front stage like in a small venue and it's being screamed directly at you. You know what I mean? Like there's a real like connection you have with like the band and their style. My favorite track on here is Rush, which has like this really kinetic instrumental, but this sort of like really moody vocal delivery. And they work together like seamlessly in a way that's like very addicting.
I think I'm partial to Dissolve Me, but like this is an album I can see visiting down the line and walking away from it with a different favorite each and every time. each song kind of steals the show every time it comes on, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I was really, really happy with this one.
Yeah, this is 2 thumbs up from me. I feel like honestly, like it doesn't ever veer too far from its sensibilities, but it establishes what it does well early on and it sticks to it, right? And like I said, it's got that final track that like it does the vital job of like punctuating the whole story by being like the crawling up from the grave that we started in.
It's definitely an interesting an interesting album to start the year off with, I guess. But,
Yeah, okay. There's a few interesting albums to start the year off with, honestly.
Listen,
They're real grab bags.
I don't think they're in the news. I expected our comeback episode to feature a Yumi at 6 review, and then that album got pushed. So
It's
that
it's just adding up to what I think is like a really big day where it's like Pierce the Veil, Paramore, and Yumi at 6 all at once.
Yeah.
The new Emo Trinity.
The news.
Marcus, in the news this week, we got the 10 biggest stories that we missed.
Ever.
Yes, ever. The 10 biggest stories ever. But before we get to that, once again, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. If you want to support the show, or if you can't afford it, leave us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, or just like and subscribe and give us a thumbs up on YouTube.
Works for me.
Fall Out Boy are back with their brand new song, Love from the Other Side. Their new album, So Much for Stardust, is out March 24th. It's their 8th studio album, and it's produced by Neil Averon, the first since 2008's Folie à Deux. The band also returns to Fueled by Ramen for the first time since their debut record. And in more somber news, Joe Troman is taking a break from the band for mental health reasons. Anyone who watched the music video would realize immediately that Joe isn't there. A raccoon is there instead.
In his place.
A raccoon is there
Playing
instead.
an instrument.
For story reasons, for the record.
So sucks that Joe won't.
I wish
be
him the best.
around. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you can understand why someone would have burnout when they've been doing this as long as Anti-Flag has.
He did clarify that there will be a point to return to this band.
Right. This wasn't leaving the band. He called it I'm taking a break for a spell.
Yeah.
Which I really
like
liked.
that verbiage,
I
yeah.
love that. I'm gonna start taking that. I'm gonna say that once. I'm gonna call my boss in the morning and be like, I'm gonna take a spell. I won't be in on Monday.
And it is crazy, man, hearing that this is the first time working with that producer since the last time this
They
band
knew they had to
sounded
run it
like
back.
This.
So I was reading an interview with the band, and this was Patrick Stump's idea.
What I'm saying is, like, way to recapture that sound and magic.
The exact reason. Pete Wentz pushed back,
Easily.
though. So I'm reading the story, and like Pete Wentz is like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to be like one of these bands who's like trying to run it back for nostalgia's sake. But Patrick Stump pushed him and said, no, Neil will bring the best from us. And after hearing the song, it's like kind of hard to argue with that.
Wait, who said that? Pete said he doesn't want
No.
to. Be one of those bands?
Patrick said, Mr. Stump said, no, we need to record with Neil. He brings the best out of us. Pete's like, I don't know about that, but then came around.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Proof's in the fucking pudding, baby. This song is amazing.
This
I
song
love
is
it.
amazing, right? Like I'm not like overhyping it, right? Like I'm not buying in too
Sam,
much.
it's
Like
you
level
woke
me
up
out here.
from a fucking coma, and it's 2009. This band never went on hiatus. This is their 4th album. It's perfect.
Hey, you hit your head pretty hard there.
Yeah.
Mania?
Llamas.
What's that collaboration they did with like one EDM artist? Why can't I remember what it was?
Man, that was the good song.
that was the good song. Relax. Relax.
That one is fire. Come on.
Anyways, Fall Out Boy are back. Hey, you know, they're back right in time. You said it yourself. The Emo Trinity is alive and well, but I'm starting in the back of my head. I'm starting to like play them against one another. And we'll get to this after we talk about the next news story. What I want to know is, I want to know how you rank them based on their new songs. But let's table that for just a minute. Today, Fall Out Boy tweeted out like coordinates, and a Fall Out Boy fan immediately found like an envelope with a seashell in it and a date that had like a brand new song name and said like, January 25th in the top corner, telling us that like we're getting another Fall Out Boy song and like a beat here.
It's almost like too much at once.
Too much. There's
Like,
no Fall Out. Maybe it was 5 years ago.
Listen, I know that there's a Paramore album and they're in the news next. Like
that
next
Paramore album's out
month.
less than a month. Yeah,
But
yeah.
suddenly there's
Like
3
weeks.
new songs and I'm overwhelmed.
There's
I don't
too
know what
much
I'm gonna-
emo for
I don't know
you?
what I'm going to do when there's 10.
You're too sad
Fall Out
now.
Boy have a song that just came out. Suddenly there's about to be another one.
Mhm.
It's a lot happening at once.
So you want to go back to the heyday of Paramore, My Chemical Romance, and Fall Out Boy all being like deadly silent? That's what you want to go back to?
Definitely.
Good old
not.
2020. Marcus always said his favorite year.
Let's get into Paramore, who released The News.
Every second of collective heartbreaks, all together every single head shakes. Shut your eyes, but it won't go away.
New single, new music video. They have a new album called This Is Why. It drops on February 10th. This track, The News, is one of 3 alongside the first single and the title track, This Is Why, as well as the most recent dance punk song, Fuck
Get it?
You.
Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean? Fuck me. You can't read French?
C'est encore?
Yes, that was actually really well done. That was actually really well done. French fans losing their minds right now. Like, holy shit, they didn't even know you had this in you.
It's
Yes.
all in. The band also recently announced they'd be playing Super Bowl Music Fest.
I know. You gotta like
Alongside-
catch yourself there.
Yeah, alongside Bleachers on February 9th. For a second, I could not believe I missed the Paramours playing the Super Bowl news.
Yeah, they should be for the record, but they're not.
Preach.
Now, I feel like we had to bring Paramore into the conversation so we could have like a bigger dialogue here. The first thing I want to talk about is going back. That Fall Out Boy music video, which there's a reaction video over on our YouTube channel at SOTS Podcast YT, if you want to go check that out. It's very big budget. It's very beautiful. It's very fun. Alternatively, Paramore also, their visual style is just explosive, specifically in the video for... Not even specifically. It's been in the video for the title track and now the news have been such a joy to watch, just like how rich in color and how vibrant they are, even though the news is a slightly darker visual template than This Is Why was.
I might be misremembering, and it was just like photos that the band posted from the This Is Why set for the music video, but I could have sworn maybe the drummer. No, it was the Turnover guy.
Turnstile. You were so close. Yeah, so the guy from Turnstile, he directed that video. I'm not positive if he directed the news.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, both of them are like equal in terms of how much I enjoyed that. They're almost distractingly good. You know what I mean? Like I forget the songs playing.
And the aesthetic and the vision, everything leading up to this album is getting me really excited. And I remember After Laughter had a similar type
Hype
of
cycle.
but like, I don't know, this might be the most excited I've been for a Paramore album.
It's
in a hot
because I
minute.
think it feels exciting in like a way I can't totally pin what Paramore is going to do next, right?
Well, when you
Like
when
these
you
3
factor
tracks
in-
are very unlike anything I would have expected
but
from
they're
them.
very unlike each other as well.
That
when
as
you
well, yeah.
factor that in. So now I don't know if I should expect an album full of This Is Wise or an album full of the news. Like, what am I getting?
What's fascinating is that we don't know, and that's why it's exciting. Exactly. And I will say that, like, in first listen, these songs haven't like totally clicked with me, to be honest. I feel like I've have to run them back in order
Yeah.
to like really feel them out and
Everyone
then like
knows you
decide
hate-
if I like them.
Paramore songs on the first go.
I think that of the 3 singles, C'est Comme Ça is my least favorite for what it's worth, but I wonder how much of that is driven by the fact it has a lyric video and no actual like music video accompaniment to it. Because I feel like the visuals have been such a big sell for me. Here's what I need to know.
Foundations of Decay, the news,
Love from the Other Side.
Love
Rank
from the
it.
Other Side.
Who's on top of the Emo Trinity right now?
My Chemical Romance. Who the
Still?
fuck are we kidding, Sam? And it might just be that I'm still riding that same high from the time we caught them live on the
You're still
headliner
high from
last
that
year.
show. Yeah, I got you.
But like that the fact that they opened with Foundations of Decay, the fact that they know how good that fucking song is and ran with it as the opener for this fucking massive sold out stadium headliner. Come on now. Come on. It's that. And then I think I listed them that way. I think it's The News right after that.
Wow, this is fascinating.
I think it's Love from the Other Side.
I think I might put Fall Out Boy at 1.
And I think it's the rest of the Paramore songs.
I think I might put Fall Out Boy at 1.
You're that into it, huh?
I just feel like Fall Out Boy are capturing exactly what it like it's almost like My Chemical Romance and Paramore are serving up delicacies. And Fall Out Boy came out
with a steak? What are you going to say?
and it's just like a chili cheese dog. Just like a chili, like Fall Out Boy,
Okay,
like, we know what
Sonic.
you need right now. Like, this is exactly what you need right now. I'm like, yeah, no criticisms here. This was perfect.
What was Mania? What food dish?
Mania was like a slightly sour milk. It was like, I see how this would have been good,
Right.
but not quite.
It's like potato salad that had been left out
Isn't
in the
there a
hot
song on
summer.
there titled something like sour milk or something? Am I losing my mind?
Fucking
ahead.
honey tea fucking seltzer or some shit.
Yeah, no milk anywhere to be found in that title.
Switchblade iced tea? I don't know.
Enter Shikari have a brand new song called Please Set Me on Fire.
You can hear us, set ourselves alight, oh let me transcend and be a flicker in your eyes. Wait for the spark, I'm no good at goodbye. I wanna be hush in the atmosphere. Set me on fire, set me on fire.
Their new album, A Kiss for the Whole World, drops April 21st. The music video for that lead single was directed by vocalist Rue Reynolds, the first ever time Rue was behind the director's chair. And Rue also had this to say to Rock Sound about the track. This song is projectile vomit of positive energy. Every emotion trapped inside of me for 2 years finally set free.
I watched this
This
video.
guy speaks in prose even when he's just having a regular conversation, which is so entertaining.
First time I consumed this song, I could not wipe a massive grin away from my face. So I think that's a really apt way to describe what this is.
Serotonin
It's just
vibrates
joy.
from this song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pure euphoria. And real quick before we get more into the song, I just want to say like we might have to like pen in a new category for end of year shit.
Which would be
Which
what
is
exactly?
album title of the year. Like so far I'm really
Strong.
vibing with the Sound of Shikari name, really vibing with the Fall Out Boy album title.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good.
Fall Out Boy really leaned into, and it's funny because Enter Shikari did a little bit of the same thing where they throw a little bit of like parentheses over a thing, and they're like this track is
It's
parentheses please, and then set me on fire, right? And then Fall Out Boy is doing the same bullshit they've always done, but they're very good at it, right? A parentheses here, right, and a side there. The video for this, I think, is really exciting as well because it's really elegantly simple, but it brings out all of the best aspects of Enter Shikari, which is that they are a phenomenally entertaining band to just watch perform. Like you can put them in a storage unit, and it's magical.
This video is like nothing I've ever seen before, yet it's filled with so many familiar pieces. So for example, they have like the old big television off the side, but like it's playing the lyrics as we're singing the song, and
He's
it's
gonna
like
bang on it to like get it to work correctly.
so. But like what I really liked about that is it also showcases again like how solid Enter Shikari is at writing lyrics. Like they are top of just the game in general.
Lucas Woodland pointed out that the album art, Lucas Woodland of Holding Absence pointed out on Twitter that the album art for this was, I believe, a fire lily, which grows in like the embers of like scorched earth. And he kind of like connected the dots between the artwork from one of their older albums and then
Flash Flood of
this,
Color,
yes,
yeah.
Flash Flood of Color, right, where you have like that triangle and like the burning forest. And now you have like this flower growing where that like, forest was burning. So I
there
really
is,
like that
like-
through line there.
Right, and there's mention of the fire lily within the song itself. So yeah, like hey, so far so fucking good. Off to a great start for this album cycle, which is weird to say because really enjoyed The Void and Bull, and they don't appear to be on this album.
Is that confirmed? Did you check the track? Was that confirmed?
I feel like I peeked at the track listing. I didn't see those two names and was like, huh. Because, like, listen, The Void was fine with Wargasm. Bull, which I forget the name of the featured artist. Cody Frost was fucking
Very good.
insane.
Very good.
Yes.
But in a sense, you almost feel like Ender Shikari is almost using those as platforms to help other smaller artists like find their space in the scene, you know, and
So
help
you're
like elevate other UK
yeah.
artists.
Um,
So it's almost like Ender Shikari is saying like these are for you, like we would be glad to like collaborate with you. But like Ender Shikari album time, like the full is nothing. But I in the back of my mind, I'm trying to remember like, is there an Ender Shikari feature that stands out from the last few albums? And off the top of my head, I can think of Rue featuring on songs, but I can't think of anyone featuring up until recently on Ender Shikari songs.
no. And I think that's why like those kind of stuck with us for a good reason, is that like it feels like we had been kind of starved of those for a long time. But yeah, Ender Shikari kicking the year off in a big way. So are Sleep Token, whoever released Granite.
When you sit there, acting like you know me, acting like you only brought me here to get below me. Never mind the death threats, plotting at the door. We'd rather be 6 feet under than be lonely. And if you had a problem, then you
And additionally, it's one of 4 other
Right,
singles.
3 other tracks.
Right. So Sleep Token has dropped this month alongside Chokehold, Summoning, and Agua Regia.
Yeah, that one I stumble on it
Yeah.
every time I just look at it.
And of course, Granite, in what is expected to be the lead up to a brand new album. If you're following along at home in any capacity, they're dropping one song, waiting a day, dropping another, waiting a week.
Right. So they're doing like a bi-weekly double single drop thus far. Like,
Haven't
you know,
seen anything like
we
it.
got to wait to see if it like actually continues and
Right.
they keep up this pace. So it's hard to say if this is part of like a longer
What
play.
if they did it all year long?
2 songs every other week for the entirety of the year. That's a
How
lot
many
of
is
Sleep
that?
Token.
That's a fuck ton.
So what's interesting is that sort of plays into another thing we saw where Metal Shell Media kind of like broke this story a little bit just by having the observation that Sleep Token's Spotify numbers jumped dramatically with the first 2 singles, but then even more so, like we're talking hundreds of thousands, and they're now over 1 million plays monthly on Spotify.
Something caught on the algorithm.
It feels like they figured out like a way to cheat the
Yeah.
system, and like this whole rollout of like 2 tracks a piece is actually like some longer play to like just really increase their numbers overall. So like theoretically, yes, I do expect them to continue doing exactly this.
All that said, extremely well earned. Sleep Token are absolutely fucking amazing. They should have 2 million monthly listeners. It should never stop growing after that.
One of our, just to stop you, Jacob over on Patreon asked, considering how early in the year it is and how successful it's been, do you think other bands will adapt Sleep Token's non-traditional release schedule, or will things like pre-save links prove more effective?
I assure you that bands are paying very close attention to every move Sleep Token make, alongside a number of other bands, but Sleep Token are in that upper echelon of, you're going to start to see a lot of it this year, maybe, in that people are going to start mimicking their sound, their actions, all of those things. I think a lot of people can tell when a band is on the verge of something really crazy, and it really does feel like Sleep Token are.
But don't you feel like these things always take time? You know, I feel like we had this conversation last year where we said, hey, you know, Bad Omens is really like laying the foundation for what a lot of other bands are going to do. So if we now start jumping to Sleep Token, I feel like by the time bands figure out how to mimic Bad Omens,
Right.
it'll be 3 years before they get to Sleep Token.
But maybe not Sleep token sound, but like you kind of alluded to, like they could mimic the release cycle.
Mhm.
And granted, like the sound won't come for a
The
long
visual
time
aesthetics,
after.
there's been an Elden Ring style boss dropped visualizer with every single song. Boy, that
really
was a
neat.
mouthful.
All of it seems extremely well thought out. Like just from the obvious like release cycle.
And it's kind of
and
always felt like that. It just feels like everyone's finally recognizing the magic of it.
It seems like they leveled up, like they fucking evolved again.
Mm-hmm. Periphery dropped their brand new song, Wildfire. They got a new album coming out. It's called Periphery 5. Degent is not... Gent? Degent or gent?
Jen,
I'm so...
you just have to get out of your head. You just have to say
All right, say it
whatever
again.
first
Say it again.
comes
Say
to
it
mind.
again. Say it again.
Gent.
Periphery 5 have announced their brand new album, Gent is Not a Genre, which releases on March 10th. Wildfire was one of 2 singles that dropped on the same day, Zagreus being the other one. Is it up to Periphery to decide if Gent is a genre? Like, is that their call?
Two quick callbacks. A band already copying Sleep Token.
What do you mean? How so? In what way?
2 singles.
You're right. You're
We're
right.
getting 2 more soon, I promise.
You're right, because the Sleep Token was the first one to ever do that, so that's a very
Yeah.
strong point.
And album title of the fucking year.
Slow it
Well,
down.
Now we've got 3 nominees super early into
You're
the
slotting
year.
everybody in. First episode, everybody's an
Fuck,
album of
it's
the
a
year
new-
name
it's a new
contender.
category.
So listen, first I'm gonna need you to
The
calm
more
down.
the merrier.
Because I don't know how I feel overall about this album title. I don't know.
Just call it P5.
Is Periphery extra?
PV.
Are
Yeah.
have they exceeded
It's the
extra?
dumbest
though?
question you've ever asked.
Have they
on this show.
exceeded extra?
Yeah, Periphery are fucking extra. Do you see how Spencer's dressed in this music video?
And did they get away with it because of how Spencer's dressed in this music video?
Have you watched this? I actually don't think I've heard the song without watching the music video. I'm not sure if that sax part is in the actual song.
It's in the actual song. Yeah,
yeah,
it's in
no.
the actual song.
Yeah. Periphery's not serious.
You're right. You're right. But those are like some serious ass
And they'll
riffs that are in
always be
Wildfire, though, right?
All the better for it. No, well, you can still have unserious moments.
Can I tell you something right now? And
or
this is going to
serious
sound
moments.
a bit extra on my end.
Yeah.
I think Wildfire is my song of the year so far.
Interesting. I'm not sure if I'm ready to call one my song of the year.
It just does it.
It's a lot
for
of
me.
commitment to start
It's
off
just
the year.
it's like the unnatural structure. It's having like a legitimate ass like breakdown of a hook. It's Spencer Sotelo just being a fucking weirdo. It's like everything about it is just so entertaining.
I'll give you that, and I think it's a good, strong choice as a favorite song of the year to kick off the year.
Also, I benched 350 pounds listening to this song.
I like that you were about to way exaggerate. Hit me with like a 550.
I took it down. I was gonna tell you like 400, but I was like, let's be
For a
realistic.
Periphery 555.
I benched 350 while listening to this track.
Is that good? I feel like
Is that good?
is that your PR?
Is that good?
Is it your PR?
Um,
Answer that.
I'm very excited for this album. I will say though, coincidentally, Periphery releasing 2 songs is actually them releasing, I think 20% of this album or more. It's 9 tracks, but I think it's like an hour or so
No.
long because that
Oh,
it's like it's on some Periphery shit like always.
What was that song? Blood Eagle or something? Is it part 2 of that?
Blood Eagle was like a 6-minute single, right? But like to be fair,
So-
Wildfire like goes
What was
crazy.
the 17-minute song?
It was the opener. It was like it was like
Lizard-
Hey Johnny or something like
Lizard
that.
Blizzard.
Yeah, my lizard friend Johnny. Yeah, that song went crazy. Yeah, Periphery's on their same bullshit as before, but I'm like so here for it.
No, I'm very here for it, and you know what? I'll hear them out. Maybe gent isn't a genre, and we're
Speaking
gonna find
of
out.
bands on their bullshit,
Gideon back with brand new song, More Power, More Pain. It's a new single. It has a music video. It's It's off of a new album of the same name, More Power, More Pain. Such a good ass fucking album title. Too.
It's everything you need to know right
it's a
there on
good
the
song
title.
as an album title. Though?
This music video really
Is it a
speaks to it.
contender for album title of the year?
It's not. But just because we have such strong contenders ahead of it right now,
It's actually the second single following December's Too Much Is Never Enough, which we didn't cover on the show because we were on our yearly winter
sabbatical.
break. Yeah. The band starts their headlining tour on February 9th, so very soon, with support from For the Fallen Dreams, Orthodox, and Guerrilla Warfare. So pretty stacked lineup.
Fun fact, For the Fallen Dreams also just recently announced a brand new album and dropped a single too, if you were interested in going and checking that out. Even though it did not make the 10 biggest stories in the scene that happened while we were on a break. So Gideon is fun and exciting because the vocalist wears a cowboy hat in the music video now, right?
Well, it's not just that. Our drummer also wears a trucker hat. And for me, seeing both of those
things
choices,
combined,
those fashion choices combined into one music video shoot,
bands all speaking the same language.
like
They're
that
wearing it,
speaks
too.
to me. That language speaks to me, and I'm digging it. I'm really feeling this band's vibe. For
Suddenly,
this album.
this metalcore sounds a little more southwestern than it did before, right?
A lot
just
more.
like a tad.
It's like this is like suddenly this hardcore music's barbecued.
Like they put that cowboy hat off and they pop off different. Like my guy's got a trucker hat on and suddenly he
Hear
drumming
me out. Hear
different.
me out. Slow cooked metalcore.
Yes, and I'm here for. We're talking like 24-hour, like
Like in the
smoked metalcore.
smoked metalcore.
Smoked
is actually
metalcore
good.
is not a genre for the record. It's
But
not.
could make it into one. Yeah, this song it lowers your voice, it puts hair on your chest.
Yeah, precisely.
It's a fucking banger of a track. Gideon, just they feel a little like they're reinventing themselves.
They feel like they've got a much stronger personality than they had in the
Yeah.
past, and that's why it
Maybe
makes it more
that's it.
exciting. Of Sulfur dropped their brand new song, Earthen. Their debut album actually is dropping on March 21st. It's called The Burden of Faith. And vocalist Ricky Hoover had this to say on the new single via Lamb Goat. Earthen is about my nephew who died from cancer at 16. After failed bone marrow transplants, he decided to stop and let it take its course. It's about witnessing that and being there and holding him when he died. If you watch the music video for that, it kind of plays out that storyline and then tags it with some pictures of Ricky's nephew in the end. And even like a really sweet moment of like Ricky like cutting his hair, which was like incredibly difficult to watch in a music video that was a lot of difficult to watch for a song that's kind of difficult to listen to, which is my understanding is sort of being penned as like the emotional like stronghold of this entire record.
It makes for an interesting aside from, you know, definitely being an emotional piece of music, makes for an interesting sell for this album. Like I'm very curious what the entirety of it is now.
It's not to say that like deathcore albums don't always have like a lot of emotional reverence to like the subject matter. I mean, look at just last year, Pain Remains, like that 3-song trilogy from Lorna Shore was like steeped in that exact type of deep weighty trauma. But it is interesting to see a band like Of Sulfur sort of like go back to back to back, like monsters are the like juxtaposition for these deathcore songs in all of our music videos, and also the album art for this record, which is gorgeous. By the way, album art of the year, early contender. It's like real like monster makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
just
like actual real not prosthetics.
I think prosthetics is actually accurate, like makeup, like costume
Yeah.
makeup sort of like deal. It's very gorgeous, but you're right. It is sort of interesting for like Of Sulfur to come out and be like, this last song is called Stained Rod, I think it was. And it was like, also like definitely some Christian Catholical themes there. But this one is like, it's very on the nose. Like, it's, hey, children die of cancer, and like, how the fuck would a god let that
We're
happen?
wearing the Antichrist tank as we're singing about it. Ricky's got some nice cleans too. I feel like
Unexpectedly, right?
Yeah, because this band has like dual vocalists, and Ricky hasn't done a ton of singing, but it's nice to hear some of that from him on this track.
The whole music video, in terms of like the band, is just him. Like, it's the story that we're telling sort of being acted out, and then it, you know, flips between that and just like a Ricky directly looking at the camera type performance that ends with him like at a grave and then like staring up into the sky. There's some very nice direction going on here.
They're fairly different bands, but your talk about like deathcore albums that spawned from very
Traumatic events.
traumatic events that the band clearly like states for context. The Valley by Whitechapel.
Ooh, that's another good example as well. Yeah, deathcore bands are digging deeper now than just like the surface level, the devil is real and God is a lie type beats, right?
Funny that is literally a Whitechapel lyric though.
Stop. Is it really?
Yeah, the devil is real.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm
It's
pretty
crazy
sure.
that I felt like it just came to me in a vision too.
Yeah,
I was
all
about to
right.
write it
All
down.
right,
I was
Phil.
thinking maybe I'll start writing a couple deathcore songs myself. You know, I think I could do this.
I don't know about that.
Marcus, also in the news this week, just a few more stories here. As Everything Unfolds have their new track, Ultraviolet.
As I feel it enter our control, when it's coming, learn to outgrow. Take it back, yeah. Oh, the color violet never seemed to glow.
New album of the same name releases April 21st. This is their third single following up Blossom and Felt Like Home. And the band will be playing Empiricon festivals in Europe this April alongside The Ghost Inside, Bury Tomorrow, and a dozen other bands.
Some good bands. Some really good bands. How do you feel about this track?
As Everything Unfolds continue to set themselves up as like one of the brightest lights in the up and coming alternative scene, especially looking at like where they were a couple of years ago and how much they've grown from there, just in like their visual presentation, their songwriting.
Yeah, that I think it was a debut album, showed a ton of promise, and now we're finally delivering on all that promise.
Yes,
These are some
exactly.
really knockout singles that we're getting, and
There's a line in this song. It's something along the lines of like, I could see the tunnel vision in the prisons of color in like the cylinders of your eyes or something like that.
So close.
It's like I word saladed the whole thing, but the
I think
actual
it's-
lyric is gorgeous.
tunnel vision through the rose
Colored prisms of your eyes,
something like that. Something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
like imagine a better version of that, and it's that.
and a better singing voice.
Yeah, and delivered in the proper tone,
melody.
right? And then like what's interesting is that you almost feel like the video itself is you watching the band perform to the prisms of color that are portrayed through the tunnel vision being delivered from your eyes. It's like it's all very well coordinated and all tied together.
Yeah, really, really well shot. Strangely watchable video for only having like 3 different sorts of scenes.
It's that color stuff. Like it's just sort of that like it's oh, there's a word for it, but it's like kaleidoscope sort of type beat.
kaleidoscope.
Yes, exactly that.
It's a weird way to pronounce
Anti-flag, anti-flag.
that.
Who knows?
Well, I don't know. I do.
Tomatoes.
Casey have returned from hiatus with new song Great Grief. Great Grief is one of 2 new singles alongside Atone that marks the band's return since breaking up back in December of 2018. Vocalist Tom Weaver had this to say to Clash about this single, Great Grief. Great Grief is how my perspective has changed over time and how I was viewing my own trauma at the close of KC and how I would view it now in hindsight. Now I've really got to a place where that doesn't impact me as emotionally as it has previously. I remember in Casey's initial breakup announcement, hiatus announcement, whatever it was, that Tom, the vocalist, just couldn't see themselves performing those songs.
The emotional
night in
weight of
and
having
night
to
out.
perform those. Yeah, exactly.
Having to relive that trauma night in and night out was really weighing on them, and a very understandable reason to call it a day back then, which was in the same breath a little disappointing because it seemed like Casey had started to kind of come into their own. They were gaining a little bit of popularity, and obviously you pump the brakes on that. But what has been interesting to see is that all of their fans clearly foaming at the mouth for more material from this band. They haven't gone anywhere. Once rumors of this band's return started to circle, like the appetite was very clearly there, and there were people that were very clearly asking for this and ready for it. And that was kind of fun to see because, it's been 5 years, I guess. Which
Yeah,
is crazy to say.
I read, so in that article with The Clash, they talked about sort of how the band actually announced or officially formed in December of 2014, broke up in December of 2018, and then announced their reunion in, you guessed it, December 2022.
Fucking, why the fours? Like, what happens in 4 years?
It was simply almost a coincidence, but it was also interesting, kind of like reading about why the band got back up and or back together, and it was like the whole band reaching out to the vocalist who had just they said they had just broken up with their fiance, and they were like, hey, we're jamming out some songs, I don't know, are you interested? And he's like, yeah, you know what, actually I think I kind of am interested, and then it naturally formed into just being Casey again.
That's actually really interesting. I also love the alternate reality where that entire band just comes back under a different name, completely different songs, whatever. Like, I don't know, clearly.
Jesse,
Right.
Lacey. I'm just trying to think of like, what are the other options? Like when you call your band Casey, like you're running just down a list of
Casey.
like popular like baby names from the year like 1997.
Incredible observation.
Jeremy.
What's that
I'm
last
super
story?
thrilled to have Casey back because I think Great Grief in particular is a really, really strong song. I just think that band's got like emo post-hardcore from the British Isles completely locked down.
Yo, we talk about how Enter Shikari have great lyrics. Earlier, 1056 has some fun lyrics. Casey are really strong lyrically. Tom is a really strong lyricist.
Happy to have that
Like
voice back.
It's essentially just poems saying back to you, but it's really neat.
I was like putting together like I was like, what to me, like what are the 10 biggest stories? And I'm like, you know what? To me, Casey coming back is one of those. Marcus, on the final story, which is actually the tragic opposite of what we're talking about, Palisades finally, well, not finally, but officially announced that they were breaking up.
Writing was on the walls, which is why you say
Kind of, sort of. So the
of,
writing was on the
sorta.
walls at first, right?
Yeah.
Like, they dropped off of that tour they had with Secrets.
Yep. The co-headliner.
Right, which we talked about a little bit in the interview we did with them recently. And it was like, okay, nobody really explained why, but
Well, they
Brandon
drop
stepped
off.
aside.
Right.
Like Brandon left and they didn't explain that. But then like 2 months later, or not even 2 months, like a month later, they're like, here's a picture of us with Lou. And then so suddenly it's like, and it was just that. It was just literally, it's like, yo, the boys are back, you know? And it's like, how do you not get a little excited when you see something like that?
One photo, they're literally in a van.
Right. And all of this is just leading up to them announcing their breakup. But like to sort of like ease the pain a little bit, they've announced one final show, which was just recently extended to a second final show. February 25th at the House of Independence in Asbury, New Jersey. That first show sold out. I'm not positive about the second
In
one.
20 minutes.
Yeah, because people like Palisades, and people especially liked Palisades with Lou in the front of it. So again, that momentary bit of excitement to think that, you know, maybe he was coming back and he was going to lead the band again, and it was big things for Palisades. Just to kind of have that cut out from under you is tough.
Yeah, no, listen, it's a real punch in the gut thinking that you might be getting your favorite era of a band back, only to find out that not only are they not coming back with that vocalist, whoever was a part of that band, but that they're actually calling it quits entirely. and granted, like some of there is a mistruth in there. It's like the band is coming back, yes, in that form, but just for one show, and then that is literally, or 2 shows, and then that's literally it.
Do you have any fantasy of there being any bit more to this, like a final song, some demos or B-sides getting released?
Fantasy, yeah.
But realistically,
I would love a couple more songs, like anything. Like realistically, I was ready to get right back on that Palisades bandwagon, which admittedly I had personally fallen off of, not in a malicious way, but like that last record, Breaking Hypercritical, just did not really.
I believe it was Reaching Hypercritical, but yes,
Hypercritical.
I agree with you. It didn't click for me either.
Right, and like, I do always want to support this band, but like I was ready to with this promise of that band, and like that is maybe us being a little like rose-colored glasses and not really noticing some of the painting of the writing on the wall.
One final wish for me is that we could get like some official video of their final performance. Like I'm talking like quality official recording.
Please, like fly
like
out.
Caliber TV,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that kind of like let's get it on so I can go back and watch it whenever I want and relive that last moment when I was genuinely happy.
One thing, Lou, who's running the Palisades count, which I think was funny too, because he wasn't even in this band a little while back, but also literally like, okay, step away from this band, and then 12 months later, completely gone, like falling apart, whatever, sucks. But Lou posted a poll on the Palisades count asking people what album they wanted to hear the majority off of when they did their final show.
Majority of songs off of, yep.
And Mind Games won by like, and also they didn't have Reaching Hypercritical on there at all, which is funny, but Mind Games like sweeped the competition.
Yeah, understandably so. It should
Well,
have. Understandably, real fans knew.
So the one time we got Palisades live was Mind Games era, and Sam for me
Started
still
from the
sits
bottom,
as,
but we're here tour.
It's like a top 20 set out of like the 1,000 that we have seen right now.
Absolutely phenomenal. Fell in love with Palisades that day. Head over heels. Marcos, before we go, we're just going to do a couple more patron questions. Patreon.com/SOTS podcast if you want to sign up. Just at our general admission tier, you can ask the show a question. Marcos, like Alex Fish, who asks, what is an album release that you are hoping for most this year that has not been confirmed? Funny enough, we have a most anticipated albums of 2023 going up this week on our Patreon. But in the back of your head, Marcos, is there anyone that jumps to mind immediately? Not confirmed.
I don't know if I said this on that anticipated
episode, yeah.
thing, but like, a boy can dream about Greeley Estates. Okay, a boy can dream about Greeley Estates.
A man can dream about Bless the Fall. And one final question, Marcos. Nick asks, considering the lack of participation in Mania, how do you guys feel about Joe leaving Fall Out Boy for this new album? I thought that was an interesting aside, because if you remember, Joe mentioned back during the recording of Mania that he wasn't overly thrilled with the
Involved
approach
with it either.
Yeah. But for that reason, right? Though part of me
he does mention in the statement stepping away from the band that he is immensely proud of this, and I might be slightly exaggerating on the immensely thing.
It's the
but, like,
proudest he've ever been.
very
this whole
proud of this new album. So and obviously like you can tell that there's real instruments on it, whatever. But yeah, that was something that came to mind when you were talking, like just when we were talking about Fall Out Boy earlier.
So maybe the least enthusiastic for, we don't have all of the reasons, but to jump back out there and be Fall Out Boying once again. I think for me, it was just sort of almost like a tinge of sadness, even understanding all the reasoning behind it, not to see Joe there with the rest of the guys. It's like the opposite of when like Tom rejoined Blink last year, it's like finally the boys are back.
Right.
And now it's like Fall Out Boys are back, but one of them's missing.
Yeah, and it's like, especially when feels like their rebirth. It's like missing one of them does kind of stink. Any more questions?
No, that's it this week. Follow us at SOTS Podcast on social media. Again, every link you need is in the description of this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Good fucking play.